Hi, I'm Erica Brandt with AgCareers.com. Let's talk resumes. Resumes can be a little intimidating, mainly because there is so much variability in content and ways to format one. When it comes right down to it, you aren't always going to win, because whether a person likes it is subjective from one reader to the next. But with this session, we'll give you a few pointers that can help you win over most hiring managers. What is a resume? It's a brief document that has to do a whole lot. A resume should be a representation of you and your work in your absence. It should sell and market you and your skills for the job and make you stand out from other candidates. Keep in mind that I said brief. It is often said that human resource professionals spend 30 seconds glancing at a resume, some even less. Let's start with determining the best format for your resume. There are a couple of suggested ways to format a resume: chronological or functional, sometimes called skills format. We are going to start with chronological, as it is the most common. This format simply puts things in reverse chronological order for the reader. So you start with education or work experience, whichever is more impressive at that point in your life, and begin with the most recent education or work experience first, and then work backwards. What I mean by what is the most impressive at this point in your life has to do with the type of position and relativity of the education or work you have. For example, if I were to seek a new job at this point, I would lead off with my work experience, as it features my skills and abilities better and is more recent than my education. For a recent graduate or a young employee, or someone that has gone back for an advanced degree or a degree in a new field, their education might be more impressive or relative and should go first. The functional or skills format is similar, and the same principles apply, but these formats typically have a section that pulls out overall skills and lists them outside of where work experience is listed, and could contain skills from work, education, training, etc. For example, you can see on this draft where they have headers for marketing and sales, and then they list out a few things pertaining to that overall category. Then, down where their work experience is featured, they only list previous employment without that detail. This format can be good for someone with a lot of relevant work experience that would be too lengthy for a chronological format. Or the reverse, say you don't have a lot of work experience, but have picked up beneficial skills that would look good to an employer if formatted in this way. Honestly, a combination of the two is really the most popular. See how on this resume they have included a brief skills outline and then gone back into a more chronological format. You make the determination of which is the best fit for you. If you aren't sure, we would suggest chronological. That is typically the easiest to start with, and as you are working on it, you might find functional is more appropriate. For more templates, the website is a great tool. But remember, you want to stand out, so starting from scratch or changing a template up isn't a bad thing. Now that you have an idea of your format, go back to the self-assessment you did, as discussed in the first chapter of Managing Career Displacement. This assessment should be a great start in pulling together the appropriate content for your resume. To begin your resume, you need a dynamic header, something that looks professional but will get recognized. You want to make sure that your name is noticeable. You can do this through capitalization, size, and boldness. Be sure that your current contact information is easy to read, and be sure that the information you include is personal contact information, not a work phone number or email. There are lots of resources on the web where you can set up a personal email, such as Gmail, Yahoo Mail, and Hotmail. Whether you set up a new account or use an existing account, be sure that your email is professional. hotchick@yahoo.com or basketballstud@hotmail.com are not appropriate. The next part of your resume should be an objective. Some would say that the objective is not necessary, but traditionally they are included and used by human resource professionals to help quickly determine the fit. An objective should be 1 or 2 sentences and can be different for each resume. One tip is to review your objective and alter to include key words from the job description, or that are tailored more to the position or company you are applying with. Here are a few examples of professional objectives. A position as a support specialist, allowing me to use my skills in the fields of computer science and management information systems. An opportunity to obtain a loan officer position with eventual advancement to vice president for lending services in a growth-oriented bank. To advance sales for an agribusiness organization providing animal health products by utilizing my education and sales experience in related fields. Yes, these are all a little generic, but your ultimate goal is that if the hiring person read nothing else on your resume, would they be able to determine if you had the interest and skills or experience in the position they are hiring for? Here's where your self-assessment should really help. Work experience. As you list your work experience, you want to state clearly the company name and your title. You also want to include the dates of employment. We'll talk about dates in a minute. Just be sure to place this information consistently for each work experience entry. To give your description of achievements and skills or traits from that experience, I'd suggest using bullet points. Typically, your work experience or your skills listings is what really sets you apart. A couple of tips. Use action words to help describe your skills and achievements. Here are just a few action words. Coordinated, accomplished, created, delivered, demonstrated, implemented, launched, strengthened, unified, processed, initiated, and many others. See your handouts for a larger list of action verbs. Another important tip, you don't want your resume to be a job description of your roles. Include measurables within your statements. Here are some examples. Expanded sales by 40% through increased sales activity and teaming with marketing to develop strategic incentive programs for distributors. Initiated and implemented a process for compensation reviews within the organization of 400 people. Coordinated 10 industry trade show events with pre-event promotional marketing, on-site activities, and post-event evaluation. All of these statements have a measure or something that gives the employer an idea of the scope of your contribution. Not all of your bullets will have a measurable, but the majority should. Final key point, take credit for what you've done. But don't stretch the truth. If you collaborated with a team to accomplish something significant, say that and mention what your contribution to the team was. I'll reiterate this in my final resume tips, but honesty in a resume is key. The few remaining things are education, training, awards, technology skills, and references. For education, be sure to list your college or university name and degree earned. Including your GPA and year of graduation depends. New students often will include both, your GPA especially if it is a positive. Experienced professionals don't typically include their GPA and can or do not have to include their year of graduation. However, most do. Training, awards, and technology skills may or may not be included in your resume. It depends on if you have them and how you are doing on length of your resume, which brings us to the appropriate length for a resume. Knowing the short amount of time that a human resource professional looks at a resume, it is best to try to stay to 1 page. If you are a more experienced professional with a lot of work experience, it's okay to go to 2 pages. Where you are in length will help you determine your room for training, certifications, awards, and technology skills. Finally, references. Since we are usually constrained by space, I suggest that people leave off references, and you don't even have to say available upon request. Develop a separate sheet that lists out your references, whom you've informed that they are listed and they've agreed to that, and take that with you to the interview. You can mention that you have it at that point or wait until they ask for them. Another area that sometimes gets people that have been displaced is when there are gaps between work experience. There are a couple of things that can be done to help address this issue. Remember, you always can use your cover letter to explain gaps. It is never recommended to include specific dates of employment. For example, May 24th, 2005 to January 15th, 2009. Most resumes will feature the month and year. However, if you have a gap of a couple of months, You could leave off the month and just have the year, so 2005 to 2009. If you are anticipating a gap following a layoff, you might consider taking some classes related to enhancing your career or teaching part-time at a community college. You can also explore consulting firms in your area for short-term work. If all else fails, update your skills and learn something new or that you've wanted to learn, like a computer program. Taking the initiative to do some of these things and explaining that you've done so in your cover letter or doing an interview will be an impressive way to breeze past the fact that there is a gap. Since online job boards and therefore resumes being submitted online are more prevalent, here are a few tips to help you make sure your resume is job board ready. When working on content for your resume, think like the person who posted the position. What are some keywords they used in the job description or would use if searching a resume database? Try to incorporate some of those keywords into your resume where applicable, but don't go overboard. When you save your resume, be sure to incorporate your name into the file name so that as employers are browsing a list of all of the resumes they've received, they can pick yours out by name versus Resume 1 or Marketing Resume. Also, with so many different operating systems out there, if you have the capability and the job board allows you to submit a PDF format, that is the most compatible versions for most employers. If you are unable to use PDF, keep in mind that with all of the updates to operating systems, not everyone is on a new version. This has been particularly brought to our attention with the transition from XP to Vista. To be safe, save your document down to a lower version so that it is readable by all. If you post your resume to a database, depending on the technology, you may lose some of your formatting, which is pretty much accepted. But to make yourself stand out a little, do an online search for some basic HTML codes that can help you format your resume for online. To wrap up resumes, here are a few common mistakes that we see at AgCareers.com. Misspellings. Really, with spell check, there is no reason to have misspellings. And many hiring managers will dismiss your resume right away if they catch this type of mistake. Peer review. So many people don't have someone review their resume. A second set of eyes often catches things that you may not have and can provide you feedback on your layout and included information. You misrepresent yourself or are not honest. You may think that they'll never find out, but these types of things have a way of coming back and haunting people. Plus, if you say you can do something and can't, and your new employer wants you to do that for them, it puts you in a really bad spot. Including personal information. With the Fair Labor and Equal Opportunity laws in place, employers don't want to know things like ethnicity, weight, religion, political affiliation, or age on your resume, so don't include them. There's a slight exception here. If some of your achievements or awards or activities are relative to an organization that would divulge information along one of those areas, it is up to you if you'd like to include it or not. You write a job description. Again, they don't need your job description. They want to know what you contributed and the skills you have. Use action verbs and measurables. Sloppy or poor layout. Your formatting does matter. Try to keep it easy to read and consistent throughout. It's okay to have some white space. Having one resume. Unless you have only one area of focus for your job search, and really even if you do, you should tailor your resume to the job. Remember, keywords. A couple of other things along the lines of resumes, your cover letter and applications. You should always include a cover letter with your resume, and it should be customized for each job you apply to. A cover letter is an extension of your resume and lets you be a little more creative and expressive of your skills, experience, achievements, and overall personality. There are a lot of benefits of a cover letter, but one of the big ones is to go more in depth. For example, if you have a gap in work experience, you studied abroad, or to explain a relevant project you worked on and want to highlight in more detail. Format is similar to a business letter. Make sure that you address the letter by name, not Human Resources Manager. Internet research typically can get you the answer or perhaps a contact that informed you of the position. If all else fails, pick up the phone and call. You can ask the receptionist for the name and spelling of the Human Resources Manager. Your opening should be something that will catch their attention, and the body of the letter should explain more about yourself and work experience. To close the letter, be aggressive and ask for the interview. The letter shouldn't be lengthy. 1 page with simple, short paragraphs is best. And like your resume, be sure to spell check it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on applications because not all organizations utilize an actual application form. However, here are a few quick tips if you do need to fill out an application. Look over the entire application before you start filling it in. That way you'll know where things go and will avoid repeating yourself. Write in pen and as neatly as possible. Fill in all of the spaces. If something does not apply, include NA for not applicable. Make sure that things match between your resume and your application. Dates are a big one. Try to use correct grammar and avoid misspellings, and review when you are complete to proofread for errors. Read all of the fine print before you sign your name.